history of La'aulapa'au, this area is known for healing and female energy. And with fresh water, fertile lands, and a protected bay, it's been home to Hawaiians for more than 1,000 years. Some historians say Kauai was settled as far back as 500 AD when the Marquesans arrived on her shores. When Pa'ao and the Tahitians arrived on Hawaii Island around 1200, the culture began to change, and some of the original settlers sailed off to Aotearoa. The name Anahola is said to mean many things. Some say it was the name of a mole that guarded the area in ancient times. Others say it means time standing still, and some say it isn't even Anahola.
So if you use the name Anahola, that spelling, which the missionaries heard as Anahola, was incorrect. It should be Anahola. Ane means the first breath, Ola, life. And our kumu ka'e'e o Nalani, Alu, she was the one that discovered, after doing a lot of research with the University of Hawaii, and she kept coming across the name Anehola, Anehola. And she says, well, they're talking about my backyard. You know, oh, that's our river they're talking about, or that's our mountain they're talking about, you know. She said about 90 or 95 years it was called Anahola. And Anahola means first breath of life. So when you come to this magnificent mountain, this mauna that's called Kalalea, and the heiau next to it that's dedicated to the Wahine, it has a birthing rock within it, and it all comes together.
In 1994, His Holiness the Dalai Lama visited Hawaii and asked to come to Kauai.
Well, where on Kauai do you want to go? And he said, well, there's two places I want to go. One being Polihale, where the spirits leave or depart the earth. And the other is Anahola. No, he said Anahola. He didn't say Anahola. So he knew, and they asked him, well, what's so significant about Anahola? And he said, well, Anahola is where the souls enter the earth. And it's not a coincidence that our Kalalea range has a hole in the mountain that's very famous. That hole in the mountain is significant, I believe, of the birthing channel where the souls enter the earth. And if you look at Kalalea Mountain, you'll see that it's a woman. It's a woman that's lying down on her back, and she has opu, that's hapai. She's pregnant, and her feet are at the end. And so it just all made sense that this all came together and should be called Anahola instead of Anahola. So that's the significance of the name.
In 1848, the Great Mahele allowed people for the first time to own land in Hawaii, and commoners could own their land if they claimed it. In Anahola, 67 claims were made, which included more than 300 lo'i and fields of ulu, uala, noni, and wauke. In the 1880s, sugar moved in. Plantations opened across Kauai, and a pier was built in Anahola Bay. The sugar cane would be carried by train to Anahola, boarded on boats, and sent to the continent. Some of the train tracks and remains of the pier are still visible today. After sugar started to shut down, Anahola was used to grow pineapples, then rice, as Japanese families who moved here to work on the plantations started farming for themselves. By the early 1900s, more than 70 Japanese families were leasing land in Anahola. For those who grew up here, it seemed like the days of old lingered longer than most.
I think the reason Anahola did not have infrastructure was because we had Kealia Plantation on one side and Kilauea Plantation on the other side. So that's where the population was, and that's where the infrastructure was. And in between, you had these little settlements that it took a really long time before civilization fully reached us. And, you know, at the time, I think we were unaware. We really were unaware that we lived a different kind of life.
In Anahola, we had just about everything, you know. And growing up, I thought it was about the best place to live. And in the back of my house, over right now, didn't have any homes. There had only 3 homes on the beach. And everything was fishing and farming.
It was kind of quiet, not too much cars. And I remember my grandma and I would go visit the other kupunas. But you know, I was thinking, I don't remember riding in a car, so we must have walked. And nearby, of course. So yeah, we went Talk Story. My grandma went to Talk Story with the other kupunas.
We had no refrigerator and we did not have an icebox. So, you know, a lot of fishing, a lot of fresh food, a lot of canned food though. We had an old, what they called a safe, a screen safe. It was just a wood frame with screen, and in there you kept things like, we didn't have milk, we had carnation cream. And in order to keep it cool, you put it in a little bowl of water and keep the milk.
Growing up, I got hold of a horse that somebody from Kapai bought it for his son. And 2 weeks after they bought the horse, they gave me the horse. I was supposed to train the horse and get him ready for the sun. The son drowned in Kealia River. So, end up, they told me to keep the horse. So, that was our ticket. We could go Waipahe, we could go Moloa, we wanted to go any place that we wanted. Everything was survival, horseback. Didn't have to make lunch or anything. You find for fruits, whatever you can find. And that's the way we survived in the village.
We had chickens, we had ducks, we had a pig. My tutu man, this was his taro patch here, one of his taro patches here. We had sweet potatoes, we had coconuts. I hated the ducks, they were mean. But it really was a good life.
And of course, that time had a fair, so my grandma would crochet. Oh, she was a good craft lady. She would crochet. She would weave mats. I still have her hats. You know, she would weave Lahala hats.
The village was almost all family, both sides of the roads. I think there were only 4 families that wasn't related. Our playground was in the back of my house right here. Made our own toys, actually all our toys was weapon, believe it or not. From slingshot to bow and arrow, everything that you can think of, you know. But no toys, you know. And that's the way we grew up, you know. And everybody was, I mean, you get hurt once in a while, but no big deal, you know.
Poi. And I remember sometimes mixing the breadfruit with the poi and fish, of course, and limo. They would go get the lima coho. They would eat some, but she was selling to the Anahola. I mean, Oahu fish market thing. Was it Ala Park? Someplace around there to sell the
Limo all my life. When I was 7 years old, 9 years old, I was on the reef picking limo. From the water level, the reef would come up, go out to the breakers, and drop off. So you get limo all the way to where it drops into the reef area to go diving. So we used to stay on the inside, and they used to tell us pick all this limo, you know. And we were small kids, we sit down and we pick limo. And all the adults would go outside and fight the waves and everything and pick. The whole village, I think, just about everybody. I had Uncle Ali, and Auntie Gladys, and Auntie Pearlie. I think Uncle Ali was 79, I think. And he was still walking down that hill.
I don't know in the truck.
Walking down that hill, walking out on the reef, picking limo. So I said, they pick limo all their life. Yeah.
Anahola has the second largest Hawaiian population in the state, behind only Waianae on Oahu. So while the town may be small, the community is tight.
Anahola is not a big town. I think there are 1, 2, 3 major businesses in our town. And actually 4 if you want to count the post office. And that's our town. But we love our little town. We have approximately 7,000 plus residents, and 3/4 of them are Hawaiian homeland residents. We also have a farm lot section, and we have 57 farmers in all.
The rocky ground can make growing crops difficult, but banana, papaya, ulu, and noni grow well here. Things you can find every Sunday at the Kalalea Anahola Farmers Market. Started in 1987, it's a popular stop with food, produce, crafts, and a monthly kanikapila and hula show. Another gathering place for the community has been the Taro Patch, an educational preserve in Anahola since 1980.
Yeah, when I first came, this place was just, you couldn't see anything. I work on this rock first. That's the first rock I found when I started cleaning. That one right there. So I put plants in. To me, it looked nice. Like a lot of the kids that had go through my program, they'd never forget this place. Because a lot of the coconut trees that was planted by kids. We used to get a coconut race for kids. It's a big family-oriented thing down here. Little younger, yeah, this is what you harvest. How I use the harvest, just come right up and weight snaps. This all tender. The land have to almost tell you. It talks to you. That's how I feel. It talks to you. It tells you. I can sit around. I can see what needs to be done. Be with this place long enough, you will learn. It tells you. At night, even at night, things change down here. Down here, you get a lot of magical things. Like this place with the old Hawaiian people who know about this place. They say, oh, this was always a spooky place, you know. But if you can live with them, great. You become like nature. That's one of the things I'm in. With the land, you just work with the land, it works with you. You understand the land, it understands you.
Recent storms caused major problems.
So this is on my taro patches at one time, but with this flood, everything got devastated. Everything got washed out. I've been through like major floods, 1, 2, 3 or 4 major floods. This last one, I think, was the highest ever came. Had a mound of rocks up here, so I just put a mound up there too, and thinking what's going to be next. Like down here, I look at things that survive. You know, once you put them in, if it grows, it grows. Then you have to look at what grows next, and then it goes just like this with the flood. A lot of people say, "Wow, that's a loss." To me, it's not. It's just a new beginning. It's something all over again. You just look around and what you gonna do. And that's why I want to pass this on to kids who want to learn how to live off the land, you know.
Nearby in Pila'a and Waipake, a fight to live off the land received international attention.
Now this road that we're going on is basically the old access, and this kind of like splits the boundary right down the line. We're riding the boundary between Pila'a and Waipake. We're right on the edge. So all of this is Waipake, owned by the Trask, and this was owned by the Huddies and the Lovels mostly. Right now, Waipake is owned by Mark Zuckerberg, and there is an Alaloa, and an Alaloa is an ancient path that was used by Hawaiians because Hawaiians didn't have highways, right? So what they would use is their canoes, then come in, and you usually have pathways, and the Alaloa would go around the island, and this one that was used in Waipake, Mark Zuckerberg, to be honest with you, we've had some problems, but right now, as it stands, organization that I'm with other Hawaiians is to keep the Alaloa open for local families that have been using it for generations. And glad to say that we've been able to work out an agreeable amount where the local families here have been allowed to come and still use the resources that Hawaiians family use for sustenance. Really, a lot of local families use the sea to eat, use our fish, so we don't have to go to Foodland, save money. So I'm very thankful that freedom and the rights of our Hawaiian people are still being able to be exercised by our families here on Kauai.
But it's not just tradition under siege. Land ownership is also an issue.
Well, this is the one of the ocean sides that my family used to frequent, and Kepuhi Point is around the corner where they used to fish all this area. But again, this has been in our family since the Great Mahele, which is from 1843, and it was passed down through our generations. So we've been here not only from 1843, but pre-contact. Within 10 years after the overthrow of the Hawaiian government and the annexation of the United States, our family lost all of our lands, including the Ahupua of Waipake. And now we're just down to 6 acres out of 1,000 approximately, and that's where I'm living now, and that's where the homestead was, and that's where my grandma was born. That's where she said she didn't care about the other lands, but never to sell Waipake. So it's important for Hawaiians to learn not only this system, but how to combat and how to keep your land in the family. It really is important, because once we sell, we'll never get that land back, and then you lose the history and the special places of these lands that we're trying to keep for posterity.
Keeping up values is also important for future generations.
And that's what it is, you know. People gotta keep up with the values of their nationality, you know. Don't just stand by and watch. They gotta step up.
My grandmother was very strict, but she taught me some good values, and the children should learn that, you know, carry on and pass it on to the children. And that way too, they can remember us, you know. I feel like we can be immortalized to them, and they remember us to all these teachings that we teach them, we pass on.
Caring is important. Caring is important. And doing is important. You can't just care, you gotta do. You know, you can't just talk, you gotta do. And, you know, everybody wants to do the big thing. You know, but it's got to do the little things. Make a difference in one day, in one life. And it builds itself. You gotta do what needs to be done today to make life better today and tomorrow. And then you can build to a future. So dig the weeds. I mean, you're not going to have sweet potatoes if you don't dig the weeds. It's nobody wants to dig the weeds.
So this is where the knowledge gets passed down from us being kupuna or elders to the keiki and the mo'opuna, and it gets passed down through the olelo, through the language. It gets passed down through the customs, you know, and mea'ai, the food they eat, everything. All this is passed down and perpetuated in our youth, and it's so important that this happens so that we don't lose our identity as Native Hawaiians.